Welcome everybody to this episode of TNT, and I'm pleased to invite my friend Sundal to this special episode. And we're going to be talking about, as a giant Panamanian truck drives by, we're going to be talking about yin-yang union, the union of feminine and masculine and divine feminine and masculine. So Sundal, for anyone who doesn't know you already, can you just share a bit about who you are, what your purpose is on this planet, and what your mission is, and what you do and say in this world?
So I have been a truth seeker for many, many years, probably coming up to more than a decade now. Many people know me as an international model. That's kind of what I'm more well known for, because that's what I've been doing for like nearly 20 years. But while I was kind of traveling the world and working in all these different markets, I was deep diving into, all the ancient mystery traditions that I could get my hands on. Also went into a lot of kind of researching secret societies and conspiracies, and then also got caught up in the New Age stuff for a bit. And then, I've been on a journey of kind of coming home to the truth, well, pretty much the whole time, but in the last couple of years, it's really, really started to align. And I am now working as a multi-dimensional field worker. So I do quantum field work with one-on-one clients. We kind of go into the quantum field, do timeline repair, collapse out traumas, remove implants, activate templates, all kinds of things. I mean, it really depends from client to client, but a lot of my work centers around something called Hyros Gamos, which basically translates as sacred union, which is basically the sacred union of the masculine and feminine energies within the temple of each person's human body, that then becomes reflected externally, in your relationships, your intimate relationships, but it's ultimately about your relationship with God. It brings you home to God. It's the ascension pathway back to source and back to truth and back to love. So that's to kind of like sum it up neatly. But yeah, you can go so many, it's a very vast topic, and there's a lot of people in this space, and, we're all kind of trying to figure out the path.
Yeah, in working with Sundal, I've really seen in the psychic realms this ability to really hone in and balance that feminine and masculine, and that creates a sort of triplicity, trinity within ourselves, where we have the outward force, that giving quality of divine masculine, and that receiving receptive goddess queen energy, and that divine androgen that's connected right in the center. So personally, I laughed a bit when you said truth speaker, because I remember when we first connected, and I did a reading for you, and we started to talk a lot. There was like, I remember your soul, and in our communication, you were challenging authenticity. And I remember like weeding out all of this inauthentic garbage. So I have you to thank in getting into like out of the nice guy BS and into like, how am I actually feeling and how am I communicating that, rather than just trying to basically nice guy manipulate people, is what a lot of people fall into the trap of. But really working with you and connecting with you, it helped me to balance and helped me to get into feminine more and really put up better boundaries. So I think that would be a good question to start off with, is how can men and women first connect with their polarity? Like for men, connecting to their inner yin or their anima, and for women to connect more with their inner masculine, so we can be more holistic, whole beings.
I mean, well, it really depends on where you're at in the journey. I mean, there are a lot of women that have gone too far into the masculine where they'd covered themselves up with like a masculine shell. This is what, you know, we typically see in society nowadays, because since the modern feminist movement, that women are very typically operating not just out of masculine energy, but out of a very wounded masculine energy as well. And it's because they don't feel safe and they don't trust the masculine. So they've almost, their masculine energy has kind of formed these walls around them to keep their feminine safe. And what you were saying about the whole nice guy thing, we see this a lot, like, you know, you see it a lot in the new age, you know, communities, but also now with like this woke culture of men being very much in their feminine energy. And it's this kind of like, you know, it's this wokeness, it's this overabundance of feminine energy. And, you know, this is, I mean, it's part of the journey, because as we heal, you know, girls growing up in the world typically have a lot of feminine energy and a very expressive feminine energy, but our society kind of teaches us that it's not safe to express ourselves as feminine essence beings, and it hasn't historically been safe. So it's, you know, you can't really blame women for kind of putting on this masculine shell. And it's the same with men now, you know, now that they're being told that their masculinity, or have recently been told that their masculinity is toxic, that they're kind of going more into the feminine. And, you know, it needs to happen. You need to kind of embrace these sides of yourself. But when you realize that you're swinging the pendulum too far in the opposite way, then you have to come back into balance. So, you know, where you're talking about like the whole nice guy thing, it's interesting because I see it as kind of layers. Not like, you know, oh, you're masculine and you're feminine. It's like, let's say, for example, if for me as a woman, I'm operating out of a wounded masculine energy, it's because my feminine energy is also wounded. So I actually don't call it masculine or feminine. I just say that you're internally polarized, and your shadow aspect, which has been suppressed, is the one that is, you know, it's like a lost part of yourself. So shadow work really comes into it and becomes very crucial in the healing journey. So if you've got the guys who've got like this typical like nice guy thing going on, and they're very operating out of a feminine, you know, an outward feminine expression, their shadow will be a wounded masculine energy. So they will actually, and it will come out sometimes where they will be, and this was actually my typical dating profile, that I would go for a man who was, you know, your typical nice guy, a little bit more feminine, because I was expressing myself more out of my masculine. And when their shadow would come out, it would be this very kind of narcissistic, manipulative, like it would be controlling, dominating, but not outwardly expressing themselves that way. So the goal is actually to come back into balance, to do shadow work. So look at the parts of yourself that you've disowned. And, you know, one of the best techniques I found for shadow work is look at what you're triggered by. Like, who do you judge? Who do you look at going, oh, those people, look at those idiots who are like that, or like, you know, those girls who are gold diggers. If you're triggered by girls who are gold diggers, you probably need to do some shadow work as a feminine essence being around your feminine receptivity and your ability to receive provision from the masculine. And with guys, so this is a typical one. Oh, I'm not like those other guys. Those other guys who like objectify women and they just want, you know, to fuck women. Maybe do some work, shadow work around your primal masculine sexual desires and your virility as a man. So I think those are some techniques that we can use to kind of come back into balance.
It's interesting what you brought up about looking at the external triggers, because that's something I can definitely speak to as a man working with my inner feminine, is that when I was younger, I was very triggered by gold diggers. I was like, oh, like, oh, the women that just want to receive and be cared for and have all this money, and there was like all this pent up anger. And then more recently, like a few years ago, when I was in the United Kingdom in such a feminine place, cold and wet and very receiving yin energy. and I was doing feminine healing, and I remember doing a deep meditation with, I think it was a Steve Nobel meditation, and I was like, I met face to face with my feminine. I'm like, oh yeah, it's because in my feminine form, in my feminine past lives, I've been the greedy gold digger, and that's like, if
Right.
women, I definitely would be more likely messing around with people of a higher wealth or power spectrum, and I had to
Yeah.
balance that. And like my masculine in this lifetime was like, oh, like gotta work so much harder than in previous lifetimes as a woman. But then I'm like, whoa, working with qigong and Chinese medicine and reiki, I was more like, okay, like I need to be opening up my self-worth to receive. And then
Yeah.
as I opened that up, then the financial abundance started coming in more. Then the relationships started opening up more, and my connection to my feminine has been more beneficial to um, opening up to deeper connection with women, especially than my masculine, because this, I guess this is more personal because I've always been an athlete and I've been like very out and kind of a lot of Sagittarius energy, Leo energy, like out, shining outwards. Um, so like activating a lot of that testosterone, but in being able to receive and listen and create a safe space, it's been healthier in my relationships with women, because then I have that sort of, that's what it is. It's like a self-sufficiency, because I'm tuned into source and my ability to have my feminine yin receive from source. It's not like that needy masculine that needs, oh, like, can you help me? Oh, can you give me a hug? All this stuff. It's like, okay, I can receive and pull in whenever I want to, which is sexy because it's like I don't ever have to pull or push. It's just like, okay, wherever I am, there's these three pillars of masculine,
Wow.
feminine, androgen. And
Yeah.
that's something I learned recently about. I've been diving into like deeper Jewish mysteries because I found out about my DNA having Jewish, Egyptian, and Turkish
Oh, really?
ancestry,
Wow.
kind of gypsy ancestry, and Israel, the name of Israel, actually is exactly what we're talking about, that sacred trinity of gender,
Yeah.
where like,
Isis, Ra, Elohim.
yeah,
Yeah.
Isis being the divine feminine goddess, Ra being the divine masculine sunlight, and then El is like the classic Jewish name
Yeah.
for God, which is the
Yeah.
androgynous, unexplainable nickname for God, basically, is El.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the hypothalamus. Yeah. But yeah, that's such an interesting point, because this is the thing that people don't understand. You have to be balanced in order to give. If you want to be, in your masculine and be a provider and all of that stuff, you have to be able to receive, because how are you going to be able to give anything if you're not able to receive it first? Do you know what I mean? So you have to be balanced. There's just no two ways about it.
Yeah, and also the quality of what we're receiving is so important, because for anyone who doesn't have a personal spiritual practice, this is where your life will be profoundly better of an experience, just from what I've seen in the world and other people's lives and my own life. The quality of what you're receiving energetically is what manifests physically, because
Oh
energy
yeah.
creates matter. Matter doesn't create energy. Matter holds energy. So when I look and learn from all of my mentors and my teachers that are in that masculine provider space, like they have a temple and a healing center to provide, they have a space to welcome you, they have a powerful business to share their personal studies with the world. They always have this, not grounded, sometimes it's really watery, but they have this feminine quality about them that allows themselves as a man to say, okay, let me bring in my vision for the world and then give it out. A lot of let's say boys, not so much like true men do this, is like just like, oh, give, like whatever they got, just okay, I'm gonna just give from whatever random number generator kind of thing they got going on in their consciousness. But being able to call in that which they wish to give to the world energetically, consciously, emotionally. And I'd love to hear your opinion and your wisdom upon that. And that's more of the feminine, like the ability to bring in before we push out, and the power of patience and receptivity.
Yeah, I mean, the feminine energy is like the feminine essenced human being on this planet is an oracle, basically. She's deeply wise. Wisdom is a feminine principle. And just like you're saying, it's because of that ability to receive divine guidance. So she kind of receives that divine guidance, and and also because she is so, because naturally we, tend to have, hormones that run through our body throughout the month. So we experience emotion completely differently to a masculine, like a male, biological male. And it is that kind of intuition that comes from the emotional body and the ability to receive that divine guidance through the emotions and things like that, that she is able to steer the ship. So when it comes to relationship, when you have a relationship between a man and a woman who are healthy and balanced in divine union, and their union has been blessed by God through the Hieros process, she will be the oracle of the relationship. So even though he is, a lot of people, they don't like, especially people who are from the feminist kind of school of thought, find it very triggering, this idea that the masculine leads. The masculine leads because his energy is kind of, projective, because of the lingam. He's the sword. So he's the one that kind of moves forward in the direction. But it's the feminine that steers. She tells him which direction to go. So he kind of puts the plans into action using her guidance. But obviously, because generally he's the one that's going to be doing the heavy lifting, for me personally, in my relationship, I like when my partner makes kind of the executive decision, because somebody has to. But when when a man is balanced in both his masculine and his feminine energy, i.e. he's heart-centered, he will always make the decision that has your best interests at heart. And this is kind of really crucial, because, historically on this planet, with so much gender splitting and destruction of our Hieros templates, i.e. confusion in what are the healthy dynamics to have in a relationship, a lot of women have not trusted the masculine to make those decisions and to lead the relationship forward, because a lot of men have abused their power and, suppress their own feminine energy internally, and then suppress the feminine externally. So I hope that answers your question. Kind of went a little bit on a tangent there, but yeah,
definitely. The experience that I've seen a lot in the world is that in relationship, a lot of women tend to go feminine excess, or like that masculine shell, like you're talking about, was such a good way of putting it, like that bravado, like, oh, I don't need a man, I don't need to cook, all of this stuff. It's like
cool girl,
toxic masculine, which they're trying to avoid, but they are embodying. But one of the things that I'd like to touch on is like submissiveness is something that I found when you're talking about the feminine intuition is so on point. Is like the only reason that I'm able to do this elite level psychic work, the oracle work, is because I've initiated myself through the wisdom of women, and through also the inner woman power to be able to connect in with that oracle of Delphi lifetime, and like really tune into my inner goddess. But that submissiveness gets in the way of that, because it's like so yin that it's like, okay, the masculine has to make a decision. The masculine has to steer the ship, because the woman's just like, oh, steer the ship for me. oh, I don't want to cook, I don't want to do anything, I don't know, I'm like, like the lethargy that in Chinese medicine says
Yeah.
is the in excess, like too cold, too
Yeah.
gimme, and that's why I like to simplify it, because our gender roles are so messed up because of mind
Yeah.
control and religious control and stuff. Really simply, from a Chinese medicine qigong perspective, yeah, masculine yang is not just men, it's giving. It's the positive charge of the proton and electron, and the feminine charge is the receiving. So the power, really simply, if you want to be in a sort of more enlightened or divine masculine essence, is giving generously and investing mindfully with your energy, with your money, with all of these things, and giving energy to which you want to see prosper. And for women, just receiving graciously, cultivating that inner gratitude, that inner Taoist smile, to be able to receive the prayers that you ask for and receive the gifts that you're being given, and go and amplify that. Like you give, like the classic phrase, I don't know if this is going to sound sexist, but whatever. It's you give a woman a house and she turns it into a home.
Yeah.
It's like that graciousness power. You give the feminine a gift, and her graciousness creates something even more
Yeah,
powerful, more
exactly. Or you
beautiful.
plant a seed in her womb and she'll give you a human being. So yeah, sorry, go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh yeah. Um, what else about that? Yeah, I think this is something that you would be able to hit on really well, and something that I'm more working on now and haven't really dove too into it, is the quality of the divine androgen, the being that's so whole, so connected to these polarities, that they're the lines in between the yin yang. I feel like I'm still bouncing back and forth pretty drastically. I am a Pisces, so I do these big circular energy swings where I'm like really feminine, really receptive, really meditative, and then really masculine, like do, work, shovel, all of these things. What do you feel is the power of the divine center, the divine engine, the lines between these perceived dualities?
Well, the way I see it is God, God, Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother is completely genderless. It's, it's that unification that has both masculine qualities and feminine qualities. So when we talk about masculine and feminine energy, we're talking about two energies that kind of somewhere merge in the middle. But when we talk about divine masculine and divine feminine, we're talking about when those energies merge and when they balance. So that androgen that you're talking about is both masculine and feminine in union. So the divine feminine, yes, she's intuitive, but she's also logical. And, she doesn't get completely like wishy-washy in a way with the fairies. She's evidence-based. She is emotional, but she's also knows how to be disciplined with her emotions and how to contain her emotions, because her own masculine energy holds space for her emotions. She has boundaries because her own masculine energy knows how to establish those boundaries and things like that. So that's what's going to be crucial for feminine essence beings to be able to have healthy relationships with masculine essence beings who are also balanced and heart-centered, who are also in touch with their own emotions and are somewhat tapped into the feminine experience because they've integrated their own feminine energy. So, when it comes to that whole loop that you were talking about, where the giving, where he gives to her and she receives, a lot of people, they get into this space of where they get into extreme polarity, and they're like, the feminine is the receiver, therefore he needs to give to me, and he needs to provide 100%, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to laze about and be a lady of leisure, and he just takes care of me. And then that's that then gets into like a lot of these like lunar feminine distortions. And I hope that I'm not alienating people when I talk about this, but a lot of the you know, this goddess movement that's all about moon rituals and things like that. And, you know, I feel like I can speak on this because I got caught up in all of that. It's a very common ascension trap where they get into this whole, he needs to worship me because I'm a goddess, and the feminine receives, and they get all into the deep feminine and the emotions and all of that stuff. And they completely forget that the path of the divine feminine is to integrate with the masculine and to become balanced. So it's not just that you're supposed to receive from him and he's supposed to provide for you. You're supposed to create this electromagnetic loop, this microcosmic orbit. So, you know, like I said, he builds you a house, you make it a home. You know, nourish him, sustain him, you take care of his health when he's going out to work. However it works in, you know, people's relationships is up to each individual to decide, up to each individual couple to decide, you know, that works along with their strengths. That basically each couple is uniquely coded according to the Hieros system. So they basically fit together like a key and a lock. And, you know, they have unique codes that help to bring about the mission that they're all here to do. So however, you know, each couple wants to decide on like financial sharing and division of labor and childcare and things like that is up to each couple. But it's this whole, you know, I want to challenge this whole feminist narrative that says that we have to meet each other equally and everything has to be split down the middle, equal provision, equal house care, equal childcare, which doesn't take into consideration each person's gifts and skills and talents. And then also this whole thing that the masculine provides and the woman just stays at home and just looks after the house, when, you know, those things might not work for each couple individually, you know. So was that what you asked? I take what you ask and I just talk about whatever I mean,
is wisdom, and that's what we're looking to get out of this and share. So that's
okay.
where it's at. But yeah, it's good that you said that rather than me about the goddess sort of movement, which is, there's, you know, duality to it, whereas like, yes, you are a goddess, you are a queen, let yourself be worshipped, heighten up your value, but not like to the point where it's like, okay, like we were saying before, that submissiveness, like, oh, the greed is the toxic feminine quality. It's not a toxic masculine quality because it's a receptive. Me, give me. So when you have that, you get into, I don't even remember her name, but someone who is exactly along the lines of what you were talking about, like toxic feminist, on Instagram, and she has a big following. I don't remember her name, but she made this post that was like very political and was like, oh yeah, like everybody needs to be into politics, and they're like, it was like very dichotomous. And I posted something like we should be creating new systems, not trying to fix the old systems. And she called me a neo-Nazi, and I'm Jewish. It's like my great, like down my matriarchal line, Jewish is a heritage passed down my matriarchal line. My mom's mom is Jewish, and she calls me a neo-Nazi. I'm like, look, bitch, you are way off, and I don't care what you talk about with like the fluffy goddess, like feminine is the greatest. I know this, but like that's where it gets over the hill, when it's just like, oh, it's only about women. That's like dark dystopian text.
These are people that haven't integrated their own divine masculine energy. I went on a massive masculine integration journey the last year, like 2021 for me was all about integrating my Christ masculine. So like not just any, like I'd done shadow work around the wounded masculine, and I had integrated those parts of the wounded masculine collective that, you know, did go out and do some really horrific things and objectify women and just kind of be entitled over women's sexual energy. And I kind of understood where that was coming from. I traced back the origin wound, and it was just this deep disconnection from you know, just feminine nurturing and feminine validation and being seen by the feminine, and you know, being wanted by the feminine, and it, you know, it also comes down to a very deep mother wound as well. But integrating that whole Christ masculine frequency, which I did a lot by connecting to the frequency of King Arthur, who's one of the most Christed beings that we've had throughout history. And y'all, like, King Arthur and his knights, oh my God, like these guys, like I can feel it right now. I can feel it. Like it's so electric, that frequency. It's like, I will put my life on the line to defend this land, to defend the innocent, to defend the sacred, to defend women and children and what's right and what's moral. And that frequency has been coming up through the land here all 2021. Like I went to all the marches that they had here for like the V passports and all of that stuff, and just seeing like these massive bearded dudes just marching and like going right up to the police, serving notice to the police. It was that Melchizedek, like Knights of the Round Table, Disciples of Christ frequency. And it was just, it was fucking hot. Like I have to say, it was amazing. And some of these women could really benefit from integrating that frequency just as part of their healing, because when you start to integrate that frequency within your own light body, you start to talk to men at that level, and you start to awaken that frequency within them, and they start to deal with you along that frequency. And like obviously throughout this year I've been like long distance with my partner, so I've been interacting with men, you know, who aren't my partner here, and the level of like respect I have received from men here just because I've integrated that frequency, and the way that I see them, they can see that you're a woman that sees that benevolence in them, that honor, that, you know, that part of them that's really honorable and wants to do the right thing, wants to do the moral thing, and that you don't judge them or fear them, or you don't think that their sexuality is distorted or perverted. You understand that, you know, if they do desire you as a woman, you don't shame them for it, because that's who they are. Like biologically they're going to obviously feel activated by you as a woman, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. So just all of those things, you know, like I just want women to come back home, like to come back home to God, and to really feel that presence of the Christ masculine in their lives, because it will literally heal the world. It will heal their families, it will heal societies, this is going to be the work that we need to do going forward.
I was getting chills as you were talking the round table, because I certainly was there, and I'd love to share this psychic story. It's so powerful. It's so a lot of people have the connection to that story and that timeline of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, because so many people were affected by the Roman Empire and how big it got and how violent it got and how oppressive it got. But I had an experience where I was talking with my psychic teacher in one of the last readings I got from him before I moved on to Glastonbury. I was telling him I keep having visions of being a knight with the round table, and I so connected to Merlin and Arthur. And I was like, who was I? Where was I? And he was like, you weren't Arthur, but you were his nephew. And I just get all these chills and visions. Gawain. Owen, which is one of the forms of the name. So I carry that same energy. And when I read The Green Knight as a kid, it was like, whoa, potent. And then I go to Glastonbury, partially with his advice, because I said, oh, I'm feeling called to Glastonbury. Do I just go? Like, what the? It's so random. I was on Maui on the other side of the world, and he's like, you got to follow that intuition, and you got to do the psychic work for the world now. I go to Glastonbury. I meet two Polish gypsy psychics, like powerful gypsy psychic women, and we're just having this psychic conversation, the three of us, like potent. And she looks at me, the one lady, she's like, you carry a lot of Arthur energy, but you're not Arthur. She's like, you were his nephew. And it's like, what? Another psychic on the other side of the world is confirming this. And that lifetime, the power of it was that divine masculine. Like all of this trauma is happening all across the world, but this group, this circle, which is feminine, it's not a masculine triangle or whatever the table is, a circle of brothers. It's we're going to
That's interesting.
protect the innocent, protect the women, and the power of the chivalry is something that I can carry. It's not dead. There's men that carry it. But if you're watching this and you're a man and you're struggling in relationships, either your chivalry is way too Mr. Nice Guy and it's too much and you're bowing too much and you're getting smacked on the head and turned into a servant, or you're way too back and you're like sexist and old men are getting the whatever that BS is. Men have had our turn anyways. But yeah, that power of like just seeing my reaction, if you rewind it, to the graciousness that you had for that masculine is like amplifies the fire. It like gets me like, yes, like I'm being seen and honored for like what I contribute, because men can't give birth. We can't give birth. There's so many things that we're lesser than women in so many ways. We don't have the power of true unconditional love like a mother can activate through the birth. So like the stuff that we do positively, give us something, you know, like receive us with graciousness, and grace is like all the divine masculine is really looking for. And it takes like that and it ignites like the light in the eyes and the spark again. And so that's for women who are watching this and they're like, oh, men aren't doing enough for me or whatever, or my man doesn't see me or whatever. You activate what Sundal just activated with that like graciousness and really authentically see a man for what he can offer the world, not for what he can't. He's not a woman. He doesn't have titties. He's not gonna be unconditionally loving super mom, but he can offer a great strength and protection and boundaries and positive external force and hunting opportunities and stuff like that. And that's one thing I'll say before I pass it back over to you, the torch, is that we're so obsessed with this relationship dynamic that doesn't work. This monogamous, like loyal to you, stay stubbornly materialistic, and we have to have one home. We have to be stuck in one spot. Like naturally, as a man, I can tell you, I need to hunt. Like I need to be out.
So you're not naturally monogamous. Are you coming out to me?
No way. I'm out hunting, and that's what feels primally natural. And I know so many of my brothers feel the same way. Is that like we're genetically built, and a lot of us are spiritually adventurous, built to like go out and explore and hunt opportunities and connect and network and build more power within the tribe. And that's I had a really positive experience at Sacred Sons, which is a men's group. And just being around that kind of round table energy of everybody's here to improve, everybody's here to connect in a space of like love, but also a space of like challenging each other to grow, is something that you don't get when you get stuck. You know, you don't get it when you're stuck in one spot at home. You're like the eagle. Like I see myself as the eagle. Like I'm going and collecting all the branches to build a nest. You can't just go from this little tiny circle or tiny box that we create in mind to really expand, to really like sort of part of the alpha male is to like dominate space. And like I seek to dominate space with love, because there's so many people that are using the masculine energy toxically to dominate the space with financial institution and restrictions and all the Saturnian sort of reptilian like control. So like, okay, I need to match that and be higher that in that strength with love. And that's like the round table energy. Okay, the Roman Empire is going to be oppressing everybody and religion and money institution. So we're going to go around and cut through the BS and go through with truth and with love and with chivalry. So I'm on a rant right now, but I feel good about that. Is honoring the masculine. I've spent many lifetimes, past lifetimes as a woman, even more so than a man, but to be able to respect the masculine is only going to increase our ability to work together rather than continue to dichotomize like the dark side wants us to.
Okay, so I want to ask you this question. There's one thing that you said that I'm really stuck on. So you don't feel like you're naturally supposed to, you don't feel, what's the word, like you resonate with monogamy as a template? Since when?
No. Nope.
When did that happen?
I mean, just I've never like announced that to anyone really.
Right. Okay, you've announced it now.
In personal intimate relationships, I have been honest with that. But yeah, it's interesting because earlier in my life, I was raised with an absolutely crazy, abusive Catholic Christian mom, and then a cool, chilled out, but like toxic, masculine, atheist dad. So it's like this big spectrum of, I don't really resonate with either of them. But that was a challenge to be like, oh, well, like, I'm supposed to be like streamlining my energy into one person. But it's interesting because when I've been more and more honest and authentic with that, then the desire or the lust is less.
Yeah.
When I'm saying, hey, like, I'm not going out and being a hoe. Like, I'm not going out and just hoeing myself out everywhere. Like, it's like very, very fine line and very like high standards at a soul level for a sacred energy exchange. But like having that openness and that honesty, it's improved the quality of energy in my life and relationship, and it like triggers the out of some women. But then after the trigger, they're like, oh, like there's like a lightness to me that's not so like obsessed with like, I own you and you're giving all your energy to me, boy, you know. Like, you're giving all this to me. Like, like I'm open to the other lovers and soulmates that are out there, but I'm not like actively looking, you know. I'm not like searching, going like, oh, like I'm in this one relationship and I'm gonna hoe around and go party or whatever. I rest on the weekends and do my qigong and my internal practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work maintaining multiple relationships. Even just one relationship can be a lot of work. But that's interesting. I never actually knew that about you all this time that we've been connected. I never knew that you were that way inclined. It's interesting because I do think that a lot of women have this belief that the masculine in general is naturally, you know, not monogamous. And I definitely had that belief for a long time. But I've found in my experience that it isn't true, because I kind of explored it for a couple of years. And I've talked about this on my channel, you know, previously, that I kind of explored a little bit of polyamory because I had this belief that, you know, men are naturally that way inclined. So, you know, we can be that way inclined too. And, you know, I do think that, you know, women, we also, you know, desire a man. And just because we're in love with one man doesn't mean that we become blind to other men. But I have found that in my experience that there's a lot of men who are absolutely not that way inclined and very much want to be monogamous, which I learned. And as soon as I learned that, then I kind of got really honest with myself about what I really wanted, and I realized that I actually do really want monogamy. And I've spoken to, you know, my partner about this several times, where I've been like, you know, how do you feel about monogamy, and would you ever want to open this up? Because obviously we've spent a lot of time being long distance. We've been together for like 3 years, and most of that time has been long distance. So many times it's come up where I've been like, you know, would it make more sense for us to just open this up? And but he doesn't want that, I don't want that. So, you know, I think it's fine that, you know, you're into that, but I just want people who are watching this to not feel like all men or the masculine naturally is that way, because I think that I've seen a lot of women in the poly community that kind of go along with things that they're not really, they aren't really their true heart's desire, because they think that they have to, or because that's how men are. And I want women to know that they can have a monogamous union if they truly want that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the root of that kind of transformation that transpired in my personal life was Chinese medicine. So
Yeah.
like I was working a lot on my lung qi. I was working a lot on my lungs, which has to do with self-worth and inspiration and freedom, because it's the air element. And I'm getting to these higher levels of freedom, to these more expansive, more healthy qualities of self-esteem. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've been like putting myself in this box because I don't feel worthy enough, right? I don't feel free enough. And then that kind of spills over into men or women who allow themselves to be pushed in one way or the other. Like for like example, what you're saying, someone who wants to be just mono, just monogamous, just with one person, for them not to be pushed in an inauthentic direction, but being pulled from the heart frequency, the heart magnetism into what's authentic. So that person for me is authentic, and I know a lot of people feel that way as well. So just being truthful and honest, as you said, you're a speaker, and just finding that truth, and like Rumi said, like the powerful past life wisdom of the love guru said, is your primary goal is to all the obstacles around love, not to like try so hard to love or to increase the quality of love, but to remove all the obstacles around love. So when you have this opportunity, say you are in a very monogamous relationship or a very monogamous culture, and then God us and puts in your path a beautiful soulmate that you're ready to like hug and love and kiss and touch, to not hold that back. And that's an experience that I had with a really beautiful friend of mine, was personally being in a monogamous relationship and then having one of the best nights of my life and doing reiki share with a dear close soulmate friend. And her and I have this deep powerful love connection. I tune in with my intuition, like removing those obstacles. I'm like, do I go any further with this? And it's like, I got very clear message for me personally was, don't ever get in the way of love. Don't ever put yourself in a blocking or a shadow, like blocking out the light of love. And then like we didn't have sex or anything, but we were kissing and cuddling, and it was so like bringing us both tears of joy. And it's like, if I had blocked that, that would have been one of the best nights of my life that I had blocked. Not because it was me or her or any ego thing. It was just the forces of love coming through and bestowing a gift, as it always does. So anytime we get in the way of that love, of that divine oneness, then it's the shadow. It's literally the definition I found of shadow is, what does the shadow do? It's where you block out the light.
Yeah.
It's where you block out the truth. So if your truth is, okay, I'm going to stick right with this streamline and connect in this divine union, just these two people, that's not shadow, because you're not blocking the truth, you're not blocking the light. But if you are here and you're coming in and out, and one of you or both of you is like, okay, coming over here or over here, then if you're trying to stay over here, it's blocking that light. And it's the
So what,
same with it's
go
the
on,
same
so go on.
with religion, right? Everything is sexual energy. Everything is this hieros gamos of positive and negative charges, and neutrons, neutral charges too. Yin yang yang, they call it, the extra force. Is same with religion and spirituality. Say like your monogamy is, you were raised Catholic, or you were raised Islamic, or you were raised Buddhist or Hindu, and like you're like this with this, and then Taoism comes along and you're like, whoa, Taoism is beautiful. I want to
Yeah.
Taoism. And then your family monogamy and religion is like, no, you can't do Taoism. You can't do meditation. That's the devil's work, as they say in the deep
Yeah,
south.
right.
Is like to follow everything, even with career, with finances, is also part of that hieros gamos, that energy. Say you're stuck in a monogamous relationship with a job that you may like or you may hate, and then new beautiful employer or opportunity or entrepreneurship comes in, and you're like, hey, let's move into a new direction. Let's move into a winding path. Life is not linear, but when
So then you go from one partner to another, or do you go back again?
What do you mean by that? With what context?
Well, like when you're talking about the job, right? Like if you've got a monogamous relationship with the job, and then another job comes along, usually you're leaving one job for the other, right? So do you do that in the relationship, or do you leave one person for the other?
Oh, well, I can't ever tell anyone what to do. I'm just more describing the dynamics, right? So that's a really good point, because it brings up responsibility. If this relationship, including career, including religion, if I go, okay, I'm done with this, then it's going to be much harder to bring that back together, especially with relationships. But if you're saying, oh, well, I'm going to try this out, it's still harder to reestablish that connection, because it's magnetism, because you're going out of this polarity that's holding you together, and you're going to a new one, and the new one might be a stronger connection. It may or may not be, but for everyone to understand that we are these magnetic poles, and we are these pillars of both light and physicality that are being pulled in these different directions. So using your own mind, using your own intuition, and if you don't have clarity and intuition to the level that can guide you on that relationship, then seek guidance from somebody like myself or Sundal, who has the sort of clarity that you're looking for if you don't have that in your life. But if not, that intuition, that heart space will bring you exactly where you need to know. And it doesn't always have to be like it doesn't have to always be these big connections we're talking about, like spirituality, career, relationship is like big magnetism that you could get connected to and be like a puzzle piece and be there and say, this is snug, this is the perfect magnetic field, I'm going to stay in this. And I'm definitely open to that with a lot of dynamics. On the same time, on the same moment, those little poles, those little magnetic poles are like where the real mastery starts to come in, because you could say, okay, maybe I'm like pulled to read this book a little bit at this moment in time. Or maybe I'm pulled to this place in the world a little bit, or this belief system a little bit, and following those little pulls, those whispers, and not just being obsessed with the big magnetic poles, or the soulmate, or the twin flame, or the dream.
But you know, when you're studying, if you're studying from a certain lineage, like I understand what you're saying, but like studying from a certain wisdom tradition doesn't have have feelings, like your partner has feelings. So when you have that connection with another person, how does your primary partner feel about it?
Say that, can you rephrase that?
When you have those, like when you had that like amazing night that you had with the other person, how does your primary partner feel about that? Like, are they okay with it?
Super
Huh?
triggered, and then super liberated.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
there
Liberated
was
in what
hidden
sense?
things. There was hidden things, and I won't go into it because now this is a little bit personal, but certain hidden things within her were revealed, and it's like, oh, that's why you're so triggered by it. Okay, because there
What,
was,
like about her own desires for other people?
oh yeah, and
Right.
not just towards one side of the yin or yang or the other.
Right. Okay.
If you get that, so
Yeah. 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 No, I
yeah,
understand.
to be in that space of magnetism is something that I would love to hear your perspective on, because we haven't really talked about that too much. Is like the power of that heart magnet. So what would you say is the relationship of your personal yin yang and center line, the feminine masculine and center line, with our heart space, and how our heart space reacts to the world, not just the mind or the body or the senses?
So basically, our thymus gland, which is right here, our higher heart, that is our Chrysophia template. So when that gets split, that creates all kinds of like inversions and gender splitting and gender confusion and faulty beliefs around the masculine, faulty beliefs around the feminine. It can cause our sexual energy to run in completely different directions. So our sexual energy, basically, there's a severing that happens between the heart and the womb, which means that sex can become disconnected from the heart. So basically, when our heart womb architecture is all repaired and our Chrysophia template is restored, then Hyros Gamos actually takes place within the sexual act, which is why, I was asking you the questions about, because obviously I know that you've had a primary partner for a long time. When you've got that kind of sexual bond with somebody, it alchemizes your masculine and feminine energies, and it actually starts to balance them out through triggers and all kinds of things where you have to do the work to heal. So I feel like when you've got other sexual energies that are coming into that space, it can throw your energies off, because then you're having multiple mirrors. I haven't actually done it in a hierogamic union. Like when I've explored kind of multiple relationships, it was not with like somebody who I was with consistently for a long time. I'd say the longest I was with somebody was like maybe 4 months, where there was other energies kind of coming into the space, and it was probably one of the most soul-wrenching experiences of my life, and I would never do it again. It was just, I look sometimes at people who are in polyamorous unions, and I can see that there's a lot of there's obviously a lot of alchemy that takes place very quickly in a very short space of time, because all of their wounds are coming up to the surface, but it doesn't look like a comfortable process at all. And for me, a lot of my work has been, especially in recent years, has been about really, really connecting to my body and the wisdom of my body and the wisdom of my heart and the wisdom of my womb, and what feels good and what doesn't, and expressing that really truthfully through the throat portal, which when all of your kind of light body architecture is connected and your sexual energy is flowing upwards, truth comes out of your throat portal. So if my partner was involved and engaged in sharing sexual energy with someone else, that would feel like absolute dog shit to me. And I would have to tell him clearly, that feels like absolute dog shit to me, and I'm not sticking around while I feel like this. So, and I know that he would feel the same as well. Like, I think that neither of us are in the place where we would be comfortable doing that. But I think it's also, I've already explored that, and the relationship is still relatively new for us. So, I can understand sometimes with people who've been together from like a young age, for example, and they haven't really explored other connections. And sometimes the alchemy can get a little bit static, and you're not really growing as much anymore because you're not going outside of the relationship and, you know, getting new energy. It doesn't even have to be sexual energy. It can just be new experiences that you're then bringing into the relationship for the process of alchemical transmutation. So I can understand why people then go into these spaces where they, you know, want to explore different mirrors, because those people are reflecting back something to them. That's what desire, what attraction always is that person's got something that they've got codes that you need to integrate within yourself. So there's no wrong or right, obviously. It's just where you're at in your journey. For me, it would just be, I would just not explore that path, because I've already done it, and it was horrible for me. So I'm just not down with that anymore. But I'm always really intrigued when I hear people who are kind of exploring it, and you know, I guess maybe I live like vicariously through them, and I kind of like, it's almost like I want to hear about it, and I'm like, oh, like how I don't know. It's just, I can also feel into the energy, and I can feel how the jealousy, because I went through this process as well, that jealousy can be extremely aphrodisiac. It can have an extremely aphrodisiac quality, however you articulate that. I know that's not necessarily grammatically correct, but there's something about, you know, having this sexual energy, you know, directed towards your partner that makes you desire them so much more. And it really stokes the fires of passion when you know you can lose your partner, or your partner could be with anybody else, but they're choosing to be with you right now. It's really fucking hot. So I understand why people kind of explore all of that compersion and things like that.
One of the points that I'd love to elaborate on personally is living through the heart vicariously. And for anyone who doesn't have the mental dictionary of vicariously, is kind of like without physically doing it or like experiencing it, living kind of through the experience of imagination or looking or inquiring about somebody else, is one of the most powerful ways in which we can use the heart in balancing our desires and our love, and differentiating between love and lust, is to feel in our heart the powerful intuition space, the most powerful intuition space in the body, to say, oh, how would that feel for me? Or how would that feel if? How would my heart feel if? And then live your life through that. So you don't have to F up. It's just so you don't have to go like, oh, I'm interested in that. Oh, and then it was lust. And then you're like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that was stupid, and regret it. You go into the heart and say, okay, yes, no, yes, okay. And then you go through with it, and yes, the heart confirms the powerful intuition that it has. No, you don't have to experience the lesson of no. If your heart says no, why, heart? No, because this, that, and another thing. Okay, I learned the lesson. Then you don't have to fall off the cliff.
Give me an example, because I feel like it's a little bit vague.
Okay, so like for example, travel. Okay, so somebody like one of my best friends has like barely traveled at all, and I've had the opportunity to be like, yo, come to Hawaii, yo, come on this road trip, and he's like, no, I can't do it, can do it. But to take your heart space and go, okay, I feel really called to go to maybe California. I don't know why, but my heart feels like I love California. I really want to go there. There's something special about this place. And then feeling in your heart, okay, what steps do I need to take to get there, and what's it going to feel like? And then maybe you'll get like, whoa, no, it's a total delusion. It's a total fantasy. You've been watching too much romantic comedy and trash TV, and you're getting pulled into that matrix. Or it's like, no, yes, you're getting a powerful intuition. You're going to connect with Soul Tribe. You're going to connect with great opportunities.
Yeah.
So personally, to personalize it, is like,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of that, where I've been living in somewhere really safe, stable, and comfortable, beautiful. And then my heart's like, whoa, but Maui's calling to you. Whoa, but Portland's calling to you. Whoa, Panama and Costa Rica is calling to you. And then I go, is that true? Is that gonna be good? Yes. Then I go, and then life showers you with the gifts, and it connects you, and then that magnetism takes you from heart to heart, and not just the heart of persons, people, but maybe you're connecting to the heart of a mountain, or to the heart of ancient shamanic portal in the middle of the jungle, or the middle of a waterfall, some sort of powerful presence. And
you're doing grid work basically.
China, but we'll see when I get pulled back to China. But
I can see your connection to China, obviously, with all the different what you study. But yeah, when was the last time you went there?
What did you say?
When was the last time you went to China?
I haven't been to China yet in this lifetime. I've been to Tokyo twice.
Have you not? Oh, okay. Tokyo must be amazing. I'd love to go to Japan.
It's so fun. It's the weirdest. Tokyo is the weirdest, but also one of the most fun cities I've ever been in. It's like really interesting because it's so hyper modernized, whereas they have these really advanced technologies, and you can go to a restaurant and there's like robots serving you sushi.
Really?
But then you go to their central park is the Imperial Shogunate Gardens, which is the samurai castle fortress in the middle of the city. And it's like this stunning, beautiful gardens with cherry blossom trees, and it's like pink in the springtime. I had the great gift of being able to go there and visit family friends during the cherry blossom season twice. And it's like snowing pink beauty, and just, it's like really interesting balance, because the samurai is so epic, masculine and violent and dominating, this big structure, right, castle right in the center of the city, and then just like beautiful Zen Buddhist temples inside, and beautiful cherry blossom sprinkles and pink all around, and orchids, and oh my goodness, and fountains and bonsai trees. And yeah, that's the closest I've been to China so far. This is long story short.
So this is it kind of reminds me of I haven't been there, but it's kind of reminiscent of, have you seen that film Cloud Atlas? Oh, you have to watch Cloud Atlas. It's so good. It's really esoteric. It's got this bunch of different characters, and then they show different timelines or lifetimes and whatever. And all the actors are different characters in each timeline. So it's basically about like reincarnation. And there's this one timeline which looks like very like people are very like living close to the nature. They've got locks in their hair and like all these like robes, and it's got Tom Hanks though. So, I know some people don't highly rate him because of all the pizza stuff about him, the allegations against him, but it is a good film, and I recommend people watch it. Tom Hanks or no Tom Hanks. And there's this one timeline which that particular timeline looks like it's kind of prehistoric or like very ancient, and so you think that that's the oldest timeline, and then spoiler alert guys, if you don't want to hear this bit then skip ahead, but at the end they basically reveal that timeline is like the most futuristic timeline, and they show that they have like all this really advanced technology, but they're living like hyper close to nature. It was kind of like how I thought when I first arrived in Ubud in Bali. I felt really like that kind of reminded me a little bit of that timeline, because it was like all these people living in the jungle, doing yoga, eating raw food, living in these, beautiful tropical houses, very close to nature. But everybody was like a digital nomad and, had their laptops always with them in the cafe, and, everybody was like a techie. And I was just like, I just imagined that New Earth was going to be like this. Like, that's how I visualized New Earth to be, like very close to nature, returning to the natural ways and the old ways of doing things, but with the help of technology, facilitating, and bringing out the best not to technology that kind of exploits, the worst aspects of our behavior, but the best aspects, and kind of works for us rather than, plugs us all in with QR codes and tracks every move that we make and all of that stuff. But yeah, that's a whole other tangent that we went on.
Yeah, the timeline dynamic is a powerful one, especially relating it back to the sort of living vicariously through the heart. Is you can test the waters and the depth before you dive in head first, so that's that balance of yin and yang we were talking about. Like the feminine heart, the intuitive heart knows you have to go to California, you have to go to Colorado, you have to go to some India. A lot of people get drawn to. You have to go there. But that masculine, rational, calculating, technological side can go, okay, where are we gonna stay? How much money do we need? Where's the safe places? Where's the unsafe places? And all of these calculated things. And we could do that also with our past life experiences. If you've ever trained with me personally in being able to access past lives on your own and getting clear clarity on that, is you can live vicariously through your past life experiences, your past karma where you messed up or you achieved greatness, to be able to live vicariously through those karmic emotions and decide, okay, which karma am I choosing in this lifetime? Which action, which emotion am I choosing to embody? And this, one of the most profound healing techniques. Carl Jung was kind of the forefather, but there's many ancients who talked about archetypes, is connecting with your different archetypes and choosing who you want to be is also one of his concepts. Is we are what we choose to become.
Yeah.
For me, the intuitive heart, the feminine heart, activated my masculine gifts that I'm giving to the world. A few, maybe 5, 6, no, more like 7 years ago, I created the page Oracle Owen, not even knowing that I was going to train with Roy Kiyoshi Goya, psychic
really
needs, and but as I work deeper with the Akashic records and work deeper with these experiences of past life archetypes, it was very clear that I was the Oracle of Delphi in Greece, and I had visions as a kid of being this like woman who everyone was coming to, like for everyone from some sickly person who's got leprosy to somebody who's like a Roman emperor who wants to become more powerful and wealthy. And that's the archetype I'm living now. And I'm living it in a, like, I'm balancing it with the masculine marketing and networking and hunting and exploring opportunities, but it's the feminine that is the gift. Feminine
Exactly. I mean, I learned this so much from my entire career that, like, obviously, the masculine needs to have a certain amount of structure to do the thing, but it's really the feminine that is the I don't want to say the product, but is the prize, so to speak. So, as a model, it was, I needed to have enough energy to go out and, get up in the morning and, do all the tasks that I had on my to-do list in order to get where I needed to go in my career. But the product was me and my feminine energy and the creativity, the sensuality, the beauty, all of those things that I was bringing. And it's the same now, even with the healing work that I do. It's my feminine energy that is the thing, but it's the masculine energy that brings her out to the world. That is the structure that kind of her energy can move through. So like business is definitely a hierogamical process, very much so. I just wanted to ask, what time are we on? I can't actually see the time on my phone. Ooh, I can't hear you.
We're going up into about almost an hour and a half now.
Okay, so I can probably do 10 more minutes and then I'm going to have to jump off because I've got a class in a bit with my mentor.
The finishing note from my end is that if you are a woman specifically or lean more towards the feminine, you can look at Sundal seriously as a really positive role model in your life, because there's a lot of supermodels, there's a lot of yoginis, there's a lot of this archetype that Sundal is bringing forth, and truth speakers. But Sundal Roy has a very special ability to take that divine feminine and the beauty and the wisdom and the power and give it. And that's the big thing that needs to click for a lot of women and men who are more feminine, is like, it's great to have the gift, but unless you give it, you're not shining it for the world.
Yeah.
Right? So I see you all the time are giving people wisdom, giving also strength and protection metaphysically with a lot of the stuff that you say and the energy you put out there. With that truth is very masculine, like a sword cutting through the BS. So if you're
Yeah.
watching, you feel like you need to, whether you're a woman or a man, if you feel like you're not stepping into your gift, look at Sundal and like give that gift. Don't hold it back. Look at the path that she's walking and how she's
Oh.
taking all this internal love and power and magic, and like, here you go. Like, I got plenty of it. I don't have to hold it back. I don't have to take a picture of me in a bathing suit and then there's nothing to it. It's just like, oh, me. It's like, oh, like, here's the beauty, here's the magic, here's the archetype, but then here's what you can get from this. Here's the wisdom that I'm offering you. So it's not all locked up in the treasury and all my gold is mine. It's like, no. You come and the temple is golden. The garden is inlaid with mandarin trees and lemons and limes, and there's plenty enough for you too. So it's like that balance that can a lot of women, especially, who are like, why isn't my business taking off, or why aren't I is my message getting out there? You got to activate and respect and honor that masculine, that gift, that gift, not just the powerful divine mama. You got to enter that, like, okay, here's all these gifts. Now here, take it. I got plenty. Abundance. That's real abundance, not the fake, like, ooh, manifest abundance for me. Like, no. The world, humanity needs it. Expand it out. Expand the consciousness of self to others. So you're in a 5-dimensional living, not just 3D box, just me. I'm going to use the secret to be a billionaire.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. Like, I always get such a beautiful reflection from you. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I love what you're doing. And if people haven't watched the reading that I did, the reading that you did for me, I did a video. I don't know, did you see that video?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I put it on my website a few days ago just to like feature it.
Yeah, so people should watch that because it was such a powerful reading. Like, I can't believe all the stuff that came through. I still think about that often. So yeah, like, I do recommend that people watch that. Maybe we can post it in the link in the description box if people want to watch that, because it was such an amazing reading. And I highly recommend Owen as an Akashic reader to anyone. Yeah, so what's next on your travels, just before we jump off?
Colorado.
Okay, yeah, I'll link you up with Greg. You guys should hang out because he's going to be there.
Definitely. And for everyone who hasn't already followed Sundal, you can follow her at Ishtar the Moon, Ishtar the great divine mother goddess, and then the moon, the receptive feminine earth element. And then
we need to have some chats about the moon though, but not today. A story for another time.
Oh yeah. I got some downloads as well. So and your YouTube is phenomenal. And like, anyone who's confused about what's going on in the world and wants to know a bit of like what's really going down, watch Sundal stuff, because I don't talk about that stuff outwardly, because I want my stuff to like not get shadow banned and stuff.
Oh really? Yeah, I'm very shadow banned, but I feel like I'm okay with it though, because it's just like, people will find you. And I've noticed the people that are dropping the real truth bombs, they're shadow banned, but their engagement is still through the roof, because there's so few people that are really, really speaking the truth that people will hunt it out. They will share it. Like, you know, it's all getting shared on Telegram. People will find you if you are speaking truth. So I don't really worry about being shadow banned. Like, I'll have maybe one platform where I don't speak as freely as on other platforms. But, you know, like, you gotta, I don't know, I just can't keep my mouth shut. Like, I just got to say certain things.
Yeah, you can't hide the sun. Yeah, the truth is the sun. Elvis has a cool quote. I love Elvis. Elvis has a quote about, like, you can't hide the truth. It's like the sun. That's like, you can't hide Sundal's light. It's just gonna keep shining. And like, I see loads of people seeing your stuff and listening, so it's like they're not stopping you. Same with like Robert F. Kennedy got his whole shift banned on Instagram. He's not allowed on Instagram or Facebook ever again. But he's still like putting on conferences, and he's still on Instagram through other people's pages. Like,
a lot of people, it's almost like getting shadow banned is like the new status symbol, or getting deplatformed. Getting deplatformed is the new badge of honor in the kind of battle for truth. But yeah, on that note, I'm gonna have to jump off so I don't miss my class. But yeah, it was lovely to see you, and enjoy your travels.
All big love to you, everyone. Thank you for watching. Comment and subscribe. I keep forgetting to say that, but
big like, comment, subscribe.